Hi, this is Elizabeth Landry, taking strategic planning with Regent University, and this is my PowerPoint presentation. Strategic planning is the process of creating long-range missions, vision, goals, and strategies for an organization. This model brings together all stakeholders to focus on the purpose and process of planning. I've included in my slide a strategic plan for Alexandria City Public Schools. That's the school system I currently work for, and their strategic plan is good until 2020. A program evaluation, according to Nancy Barrett, is the determination of the value or worth of a product, process, or program. And I've included in this slides the step to program evaluations. And I think one of the key things to remember is that all stakeholders are engaged in evaluating the program, not just the ones that put together maybe the action plan, but it's all stakeholders. The utility and value of having a strategic plan and a program evaluation is it makes sure that your mission and vision statements are clearly stated and communicated. As I mentioned before, it makes sure that all stakeholders have a voice in the decision-making process. Your goals are clearly defined. Resources are allocated toward what your plan says you want to accomplish. An action plan is implemented, and part of the cycle is a review. Here are two models of a strategic plan that I found. One is from Fulton County Schools in Georgia, and it's their strategic plan for 2017. The other strategic plan is from Nashville Metro Public Schools, and I like this because it actually gave a month by month statement of what they were going to do. In particular, I think this is someone's plan of 100 days. They just had hired a new superintendent. So typically, when superintendents come into districts, they come in with a plan, a 100-day plan of different things they want to accomplish or tasks they want to launch and how they're going to do it so that then the public can go back and see if this person indeed has begun to make some of the changes or put plans in place to make some of the changes that they said they would do once they were hired. I also found this interesting because it's a strategic model of planning for teachers. I think as I was doing my research that the one thought that came to me is teachers often are left out of the process, even as being a part of that stakeholder team. We're doing a better job with including families and communities, but a highly effective teacher and their ability to plan good instruction for students makes a huge difference. And so I really thought that this was something to include. And then a couple of models of program evaluation. The first one is steps in program evaluation, which I thought was interesting. That's to engage the stakeholders to focus, collect your data, analyze and interpret your data, and of course to use it for improvement. I call it continuous improvement. And another model, which was also included in our text, is the context, input, process, product evaluation model. It sort of went along with some of the models I saw that school districts are using. It was rather interesting because as I was looking at strategic planning and program evaluation, my mind went back to a previous class I took in Regent where we read the book Good to Great. And I felt like in all of this that a lot of it had to do with getting the right people on the bus. I think so often, and I only know educational settings because that's where I spent the majority of my career working over the past 15 years. And what I'm finding is that not having the right people and just letting anyone be a part of the process, maybe that's why we have some of the results we do in education. And so getting the right people on the bus is really important. I mean, it's key. So I wanted to include that as the application of educational settings because all three pieces working together means we're heading in the right direction. Decision making. It's new for schools. I think businesses have always done this. Walmart is going to disaggregate how many customers they have coming in and out their door, what products are moving out of their shelves, how quickly they can get the product in. And of course, they're going to make sure that the things that are selling the most are always in stock. We need to do something similar, but of course, we have to remember in education, we are indeed working with the human factor, and we're working with students and um, peers to peers, colleagues, as well as our stakeholders, primary stakeholders too, our parents. But we need to disaggregate the data, make sure we have the key personnel, knowing how to use the results. Professional development. I believe that teachers also need to know how to use the formative and summative data that they collect on their students. And all decisions are made based on data, not gut instinct. I think in the past, maybe that was a way that schools sort of worked, but in this day of No Child Left Behind, and even with some of the revisions that have been made, we have to make sure that our decisions are made based on data and what's in the best interest of the strategic plan, and that funnels down to the school improvement plan. I wanted to bring in Fairfax County. I've worked in Fairfax County about 3 years ago for 5 years prior. And they are one county that I can honestly say a lot of the things that I'm learning in Regent, they have in place. I believe that they've always used their resources, which are people, to ensure that they are moving in the right direction. The one thing I learned is that in a strategic plan, you can't always anticipate what's going to happen in the future, but you can put some systems in place so that when things change, it's not to the detriment of the organization. And I believe that Fairfax does that well. They have something called a portrait of a graduate, and that is where they start to look at that pre-kindergarten or kindergarten student that enters their door and want to make sure that the skills that they learn, soft skills, hard skills, and academic skills, are actually throughout the continuum from K through 12. And they make sure that the student is prepared to graduate. And that seems far fetched for a lot of people, but one day that kindergartner is going to be a seventh grader, and in a blink of an eye, they're going to be walking across the stage. And have we prepared them to go out into the adult world with the skills necessary to be successful? And can they communicate? Can they collaborate? Do they think globally? Are they a resilient person? They're going to meet many obstacles, but can they overcome? And those are just as important as any academic skills that a school would teach. And of course, Regent is a Christian university, and that is my reason for taking my graduate work there because I like how they always bring back the focus to what is really, really important in life. And the Bible says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And that's from Proverbs 19:21. I really believe that it is so critical that as we look at students, we look at more than their academic success. Because, as the Westminster Catechism has said, our chief end is to worship and glorify God. And that's going to be what determines at the end of our life. That's really, really important. So let's keep it the focus when decisions are made. And I know there's not a lot of prayer in public schools or a lot of vocal prayer in public schools, but when there's Christian teachers there, there's prayer. And bringing that spiritual focus there to the strategic planning process. And not, I think the biggest thing for me is taking away that parental responsibility of what God has ordained for them to be in their child's life. we as a school system act in loco parentis, and that is indeed in lieu of the parent. And so keeping that in focus and just making our light shine that others can see Christ in us. My potential interests. I'm interested in the role of family systems and education. The changing demographics, I really feel like that is impacting schools. And when I say demographics, I don't mean just ethnic demographics, but I also mean family demographics. People are more transient. How does that impact education? Background knowledge of students. We know that some students come to school more prepared to learn. Actually, in today's society, we actually have less students that are coming prepared to learn. And what is the impact it has on educating students? Excuse me, I am a reading specialist, so of course I want to talk about resilience in reading. And another big thing that's concerned to me is oftentimes schools and districts come up with one approach to teaching reading, and we all know one approach isn't the only way. And if the student doesn't learn that way, we're more likely to place them in special education. Which honestly, if we would come up with one or two approaches to teach reading in the general education classroom, we would place less students in special education. So that's a area of concern for me. And then finally, flipped blended professional development. One of my passions is that pre-K through third grade administrators as well as teachers understand the literacy continuum. Teachers are busy. They have lots of responsibilities, and I feel like part of the problem in today's classroom is feeling stretched too thin. So having a flip blended model allows for teachers as well as administrators to listen on a Sunday afternoon and to learn and to bring that into their classroom. And finally, throughout the process, my thoughts have evolved and changed. The process for me now of strategic planning is aligning the organization's mission, vision, and goal statements, which directly points toward all the outcomes. That means the action plans, the resources, data review, and just in general reviewing the plan. And then finally, a program evaluation is a thorough look at the mission, vision, and goals of the organization, a review of the performance showing strengths and areas for growth, and the results are utilized for continuous improvement. Education isn't static, it's dynamic, and it is always going to be changing. It's going to be changing because people change. Our students change, administration change, society changes, the needs of what we are looking for in global citizens and 21st century learners will change. And therefore, we must always have the mindset of continuous improvement. And my final slide is review the monitoring data. Why bother? We're doing just fine. This way of looking at education, I hope, is really changing and moving us in a better direction to plan strategically with the goals and the mission in mind, and to keep focused and know when we get there and know when we need to make some changes. And here is my reference page. And this has been a really thought-provoking assignment. It's made me step out of my comfort zone and just started me to thinking about how does my planning impact what I'm doing, not just at the moment, but does it keep me focused on what my mission, vision, and my goals are? And am I using my data to make the best decisions for continuous improvement?